colleagues, Michael Corriero and Patricia Domingo,
Are both from New
sat on the
York,
bench
so
for
yeah,
decades.
for like decades.
So it's really, the three of us, we've got very different perspectives, we've got different backgrounds, and I think the consequence of pulling all that together is we're able to give viewers something new and different.
I'm wondering how sitting on the bench has been different to you rather than being on the other side.
Different. It is so. It really was a very steep learning curve because there are a lot, temperamentally and in terms of your approach to a problem, it's very different when you're the one who's resolving it as opposed to being the one who's like fighting for it, right? Like I'm used to being an advocate. And so for me, it was quite a learning curve because on the one hand, I'm like, okay, I'm here to solve the problem. But on the other hand, I'm like, you guys are acting crazy. You're not supposed to act like this.
You're supposed to be acting like the greatest person, and don't even act crazy.
My two colleagues,
like her two colleagues and all,
under much worse circumstances, are like, I'll be all right. Like, sometimes.
But it's on TV, so let's face the fact, they're going to dramatize it more than they would if it's a traditional court scene, right?
You would think that.
Because you will think that because you have a good point right there, but exactly,
But no, really. I mean, we don't tell people, like, it's not a scripted show. We get a complaint and an answer. The first time they show up in front of me is the first time I've met them. I've seen their papers in advance, so I know the problem. And it would surprise you the extent to which people, knowing they're on TV, knowing everybody's seeing, how this thing is working out, they are still really, really riled up. I mean, you would think sometimes that the camera would take things down, but it doesn't. It can also build it up, but sometimes it really just gives you a glimpse of what's there.
Right.
Just a glimpse of what's there.
Or has surprised you most about doing the show? Sort of being on that side, or?
Yeah, I think one of the
things but I think that she's been doing a great job as like a judge because sometimes she's been working hard for like that.
Sometimes I've seen people fight over really nasty, tricky things. So it's not the depth of the fighting that surprises me. But what I will say, and you have to remember that our case, they're small claims litigants, right? These are people who are not represented. I'm sometimes surprised by the extent to which people think they can just win a lawsuit with a smile and good looks and no evidence.
I mean, that's how I get out of my speeding ticket.
Yeah, that was the one. That was the one, right?
But no, seriously, sometimes people, they're kind of like, well, how are you going to prove this thing to me?
And how are you going to put this thing to her in the whole case
well,
of
that's
that?
not really...
Because that's not even really what they always do.
Just having a chat. You're trying to resolve.
Trying to resolve a problem.
And in order to do that, you've got to have some evidentiary basis. So sometimes I'm a little surprised that people just think that, fighting, proving a fact doesn't really matter.
And it doesn't really not matter because it does not. No, it doesn't.
Look at you. I mean, you're drop-dead gorgeous. You're so intelligent. It looks like you're married. You obviously are, you have a lot of success. What would you say is the secret?
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, gosh, I don't know.
I was thinking about that question as I've been listening to your program today. For me, it really is about direction. Like, sometimes I just have to sit still and figure out what is going to be the next thing. You can't be successful in anything, I think, until you focus and kind of direct your energy toward a goal, right? Sometimes we're just kind of floundering. I'm not talking about other people. Like, sometimes it's me, right? You can just get caught up in the day and the routine of the day, and you're putting you sort of get used to doing your thing. And sometimes when you're not spending as much time focusing on why you're doing it, it just becomes this rhythm, this routine. I think that real success is about
we're going to have to be successing on it is the one always about.
Just trying to stay focused on it.
And that's hard. Try to just stay focused on it.
Because I sort of heard you say in your experience sort of with the show and everything like that, one of the things that surprised you most was, almost if I would have put words in your mouth, is that people seem less able to think in strategic ways than you might expect, and they're less focused in that way. And so, have you found that? Have you found that over the course of your career, and then coming on to the sort of being in front of the camera, that people are more challenged by the ability to think strategically and be intentional and be focused than ever before?
I think
You
we
know,
just
you might be absolutely be
know,
right about that
just a
because
lot of
every
things
woman
for
that
stuff.
should be like
I
a
think
be
strategic
focusing on their
thinking is
career,
something that
just to be
people
making
often
sure that they
attribute
don't
to
even get
lawyers, right? Because they
distracted
think
or
of
of
us
all things.
like, you bring me a problem and
Yeah,
I've
because
got to
that
put
would be like
together
an
the
issue
case
or a
and figure out how to
problem or
solve it, but it's
anything
much
like
bigger
that.
than that, right? Like if you're thinking about the strategy of how to think about your life, right? Everything is a strategy. There's strategic thinking in terms of how am I going to get through this week, getting done completing all the things I want to get done, while at the same time, like, I really don't like to be so structured all the time. I think
I want to get through the
important to have fun.
405 and rush hour.
It's like you've got to really, and it's
Because
also
everything
about
is like
managing your
really.
life so that your head's not so full and crazy, right? Like for me, part of my strategic thinking is simplifying my head. Like otherwise, if there's too much stuff, you don't really get anything.
If there's like
done.
too
You're
much stuff,
moving
like nobody
five
else
different
will not even do
directions instead
all
of
of
getting
that.
one thing done really well.
I mean,
Mhm.
from Yale and law school, was this always your strategy?
I did not think.
Well,
that
she didn't
Judge
even think
Shine
anything
would
about
want
that, but
me
no.
to be,
But
like,
but I
on
think
her
that if you
new
would have
show,
told her that,
so
but
what did you
yeah,
think when
because
you got
she
that
even went to
call?
a
That
law
was
school.
incredible.
But
I
it was
mean,
incredible,
so
yeah.
here's the truth. I actually got a call, and they said CBS is casting a new show. Can you come down this afternoon? And I was like, I gotta do my hair.
It's like she gotta do her hair. Like, yeah, I was even know why.
Get my hair done. So I
She
was
gotta
like,
get
give
her
me a
hair
minute
done.
to like, cause they're like, can you come down like in the next couple hours? I was like, can you give me a minute? Like,
Like,
just
can
give
you
me a
give her
minute.
just a minute, please? Yeah, that
And
was the
so
one.
there were a few of us, and then we did kind of different combinations of people, and I made the cut. But I got to tell you, it is really something to
Mm-hmm.
be like when we were kind of doing run-throughs. I remember being on the bench, and I saw Judy, like
Judge
walking, and
Judy
she's kind of
Sharlin
walking,
created a whole show
around,
of
and
that.
she really is just a powerhouse. Like her energy is so alive. Everything you're seeing on camera with her is real and sincere. People sometimes say, "Is she really nice?" I'm like, "Yeah, show up lying."
No, she don't like show up
I
lying.
mean,
No,
she's
no,
been a
no.
lovely mentor and guide to me in this business in all sorts of ways. But I have to say, like that first moment when I realized I'm trying out for Judge Judy, that's when
Mm-hmm.
it kind of hit. I was like, wow.
Wow,
But yeah, it
yeah.
worked out. So
Perfect time in history.
Mm-hmm. That was the one, exactly. Yeah.
Of a women, and we're just proud of all your work.
Absolutely.
Sweet.
I know you've always been an avid voice for women, for minorities. Tell us a little bit about the platform and how Hot Bench has helped you with this.
Oh, Sissy, you've been asking a great
Is,
question, but
really
I
special
wasn't even
because it
wondering for
does
that.
kind of
Yeah,
put you in a place where people will
because
listen,
she
care
finds
about
like
some of the stuff,
the
that,
Hot
is
Bench show
important
was
to-
like
for
completely
me anyway,
amazing because
things
even
that
though
I talk
she
about publicly
works
are
hard
things
as a
accomplished things
judge,
I've been doing for a long
but
time.
Tanya
I've
Acker
been on
never
the board
gives
of
up on the
Public
whole
Counsel,
thing
which
of
is
it
the
because she
largest
continues to
provider of
work
legal
hard for
services
it.
in
Yeah.
the country for some time. I'm on the board of the Western Justice Center, which promotes alternative dispute resolution.
Mm-hmm.
I surprised some people when I told them I'm also on the board of the Boy Scouts, National Executive Board. Yes.
Yeah.
I think that first off, I started with a council that in the Western LA County Council, which never discriminated on the basis of sexual orientation. And so then when the Scouts changed their national policy, and then now they're allowing girls to achieve the rank of Eagle, I think it's really important, frankly.
Yeah, it is
This whole
really much
conversation
important,
about girls
yeah.
in the Scouts. The girls have actually always been in the Scouts. The policy change that's getting so much attention
Because the
now
policy
just
always
allows the
changes
girls
for a
who've
reason.
already been in
Because
Scouts
they
to
always
make the
do that like
highest rank
every
Eagle.
Were you a
other
scout?
time.
I was not.
No,
not.
she wasn't. No,
I got
no.
involved actually because this council, the Western LA County Council, which was sort of my introduction to the Scouts, they wanted some help sort of navigating some legal issues, and they're also kind of strategic position because the Western LA County Council was actually taking a position on membership and inclusion and sexual orientation that was far advanced than what was happening nationally. So they kind of wanted some help with like strategic direction and communication stuff. And I'm also their in-house, their pro bono lawyer. So there's organizations like that. Like I think that the Scouts are important because it really does sort of teach civics and
Because it does, like,
values
it
and
really does change the
intelligence
secrets
and
in the whole
structure,
program.
and there is some good to that.
There's some good to that
athletes,
part.
athletic programs,
It's-
and that these are things that the kids need in our world because there isn't a lot of structure. you
No,
know?
there's not.
No, there is
and,
not, but you
know,
might
I
be
think
right
the
about
flip
that, but
side
no,
of
there's not.
that, I've also had the chance to
Because
work
she also
with
had a
kids,
chance to do
you
something.
know, who
yeah.
haven't had that opportunity.
Because
right?
they
Like, I
didn't
just
even have
gave
the opportunity
the
just
graduation
yet.
speech at East
Mhm.
River Academy, which is a school on Rikers Island, in the jail. And to see these kids, you know, incarcerated kids, marching down in caps and gowns and crying, you know, because they, you know, some of them got high school equivalency degrees, like there were different, you know, there were different exams that they had taken and passed. But really, to have the chance to like work with kids and to work with people who, to some extent, you know, we've written off a lot of folks that shouldn't be written off. A lot of those kids
Because a lot of these
who are
kids like, don't even know
eagerly
something about
learning.
it.
In Rikers, and remember, Rikers is the place where lots of folks are just because they can't make bail. You know, I mean, they haven't necessarily been adjudicated guilty of anything. Some of them just can't make bail.
Wow.
So these kids are there learning, and I have to
Yeah,
say,
these kids are gonna be learning because we have to
reminded
say
me
because
that if
every
there's
people
any
that should be
good I
able to
can
learn
do, if
and
there
get
is
along
any,
and
you know,
face with the
people watch the
consequences.
show, they
That's
like the
what every
show,
people
and because
should
of it,
always
you know,
do.
got me on your very fun show.
Yep.
If there's any good I can do, it's just I'd like for people to, we need to start being a little more compassionate. You know, we've written off
Amen.
people who are on the, we've written off incarcerated people, we've written off entire communities of folks, and I really think it's a lack of compassion. Like,
But I think there's also a lack of
and again, I'm talking to
compassion and a
myself,
lack
too.
of a
It's something I want to
commitment
remind
because
myself
every
of
people
when I'm
should have faced it with along with the
cases.
consequences of
That
themselves
justice is
Like
necessary,
justice,
and
too.
we need justice and rules and structure.
and rules and
But we also
structure.
need a little more compassion.
So what's the
Yeah.
first step in that?
Honestly, for me, the first step is to try to be nicer in the space that I am. Like, right, we can only control the space we occupy.
Yeah,
Sometimes we get in trouble. I think
because sometimes
by
we cause a lot
trying
of
to do
trouble
too
of
much, or
things.
you
Yeah.
know, take things too far. You can really make the biggest impact sometimes by just trying to touch who and what's around you. You know, we forget sometimes, especially when we're busy, and if you live in a town like LA, it's
Like
easy
Los
to not be
Angeles.
nice. You know, I've had days where like somebody cuts you off, you just don't feel nice.
That's true because they don't even just feel nice
Like,
at
I
all
can't
because
say
they honestly
I'm
they
LA
never do.
native, and so I watch this traffic grow exponentially, leaps and bounds. There are times when I'm not so nice,
Right?
and I have to remind myself. You know, it's to me, I feel like I'm just a work in progress, right? Like I want to be better. I want to be nicer. I want to be more compassionate.
And be compassionate to yourself
And
for
be-
not being perfect in that. What do you do to really maintain that balance? I know you said, you know, you get quiet, but is there something you do to really just look after yourself?
Well, to
I
be
try to
honest,
look
I don't
at
even
things
know
to look
about
out
that.
for my, look after myself. You know, I wish, especially here on this platform with you guys, I wish I could say I'm really diligent about meditating.
Yep.
I'm not.
Me neither.
I try.
Because we
I-
tried it because we don't even know
I
how to
try,
be looking
but I'm not-
after
I'm
ourselves
not
because we don't
as
even do
regular
that
as I
ourselves.
should. I do like to work out. I think that there is a real healing that happens when you exert yourself physically. Like your head clears up. I don't do it first thing in the morning.
I don't either
Like,
because I never
you
do that in
guys
the first thing in
really
the morning
need
either. I never do
yeah,
that.
that
Otherwise,
is.
we wouldn't get it
But it's true. Like,
But it's also
you gotta
very
get it out of
true.
the way,
Like,
but it's
yeah.
hard for me. It's hard for me early, but I'm trying to make it earlier because it really does. It does pick you up. And for me, like my family and my friends, you know, are really. I don't know how I would manage much, frankly, without the community of people that I have.
Mhm.
You know, I think it's easy, especially you know when you work in television and you're doing something that people are watching. You can really be racked by self-doubt and self-criticism. Like, you know, just watch yourself on TV. You know,
Yeah,
look
like
at
watch
some of
yourself on
these
TV with
gigs that
self-criticism,
happen.
activism.
It's like, you know,
Yeah.
back in the day when you're done, like, oh, did I wear that? Did I look that? Did I say that?
mhm.
And so when you're in a situation where you're constantly presented with yourself, it's easy to criticize. Like, it's easy to become super critical.
It was like
that's
super
actually something
critical,
that I work
yeah,
on
that's the
because
one.
at some point, you know, as you said, you got to just live with your mistakes.
Get off
They
your own
happen.
hot
And
bench.
you have to be living with your mistakes to get on with your life.
That's right.
Well, I do believe that it is an ethical and moral, you know, spiritual world we live in, and that there are cause and effect that happen. But I do think that we all have to be more compassionate, especially right now in history. And it starts with the self for sure. But if we could just do it for our community and let it spread out from there. So thank you so much for being a leader and representing for all of us.
Thank you.
Well, thank
Where
you.
can people find you?
You can see us on CBS stations.
Well, you're
and
gonna be
Fox
seeing
stations
them on
in
CBS
syndication.
Nation.
So in LA.
So in
over
Los
Channel
Angeles.
9 at 1 o'clock, I believe.
All right.
Yeah.
Isn't that horrible that it just took me that long to like remember what time
Everything's
I
on
show
demand
it?
anyway. It's so fun. And they can follow you personally on Instagram as well.
Yes, Instagram.
Yep, that's true.
Tanya Acker, Twitter, Tanya
And
Acker.
Tanya Acker on Facebook and
Also
Instagram
Tanya
and
Acker.
Twitter.
All right.
Yeah.
And on Snapchat.
Get in those handles.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more on Good Morning La La Land.